This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Daws.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Welcome. Well, yes, I'm very well. That's an interesting...
Oh, I'm just putting on silly voices this morning. I just got a silly voice phase I'm going through. I'll grow out of it as I normally do, but at the moment I'm revelling in it.
Well, it is Mr. Robert Daws sitting next to me, believe it or not, despite the silly voice. Hello, Bob. It's been a little while again.
It's been a little while. Life goes on. As the world stumbles from one catastrophe to the next, we sort of go on. But anyway, it's an incredible week. Everyone's frightened and greatly disturbed about what's happening in the Ukraine, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of my learned colleague here that we send our thoughts to the Ukrainian people who seem to be exhibiting extraordinary bravery in the face of all sorts of catastrophes. So we wish them well in these appalling times.
We do, but on to more important things. Your camera's dropped slightly, so I'm just going to lift that up. There we go. Look at this, live on air.
That's a contractual bleep you've got there. The camera should always be.
There we go.
There we are. Is that any better? I don't think. Well, there we are.
Readily adjusted.
For those who are having to look at me, God bless you.
Well, for those who are watching, you're probably patrons of ours. You're members of our Patreon thingy. What's it? Hello to a new one this week, Carol Rickson, who has joined us. Hello to you.
Carol, hello, Carol. I hope you're well. I know Carol Rickson. Welcome. Yes, hello. Nice to have you.
Do you know all of our listeners?
Probably.
Not difficult, is it?
The blood ones, anyway. The blood-related ones.
That probably does help.
Yeah.
Well, onto our mailbag then. Little cough. More on that later. Helen Weir has been in touch. Says, "Hi guys, lovely to have you back."
Hello, Helen. How are you? All right. She's another dear friend of ours, isn't she? She's absolutely brilliant. She's very supportive in so many ways. So, hello, Helen. Hope you're well.
Hello. Well, she says, in the last episode you were talking about book charts and bookshops. Personally, I prefer to buy my books directly from the author if possible, if not then via their publisher. That way, I like to think it's better and fairer to them. Not a huge fan of big chain shops. Thanks for all the laughs. We were asking, weren't we, where people like to buy their books. So
yes, yeah. I still like a bookshop. I understand what Helen's saying. I like to find those sort of smaller independent bookshops. You know, there's, in every town and city has a little gem tucked away somewhere, and it's hard work for most independent sellers, I would suggest, but they put so much effort into their stores. I mean, you know, they're so sort of inventive and personal, and so here's a big shout out to all independent booksellers in the UK. They deserve our support, but again, Helen raises a very good point. I mean, going to the author personally or the author's publisher is also an excellent route.
If as an author you happen to have a shop on your website, like I do, for example,
you do have a shop on your website. I mean, the thing is, you know, there's shops on websites. I still like to go in occasionally to little old shops with creaky doors and stairs that go up to the 6th floor, and every floor is heavy with books, some new and many old. I love those stores. I can't resist them. They have a sort of I don't know, a romanticism about them. There's
a couple of those in Stamford you'd very much enjoy.
Are there? Oh right. Oh gosh. Well, there was one in Southport, a very good one in Southport as well. So anyone from that region, I've forgotten the name straight off the top of my head.
There's one in Morecambe that's like that as well, actually, up that neck of the woods.
Oh, is it? Is it every town, not every hamlet, alas, but most towns and most cities have them tucked away, and God bless them, we need them.
Yes, we do. Still on the mailbag, we also had a lovely message from an anonymous listener who said, pants. What's a load of shite talking about mattresses and waste of time, which is nice to hear.
Who said that?
Well, unfortunately, they actually sent that from their O2 mobile and accidentally sent it via media messaging, which means their phone number was at the top of the message. I shan't embarrass them publicly. I won't go that far. But their number does end in 96594, and they know who they are. So glad to hear you're loving the show. On mattresses, you might like to know, I actually got a new bed and mattress last week.
You did? Tell me more, please.
I took your lead, Bob, when you were talking about getting a new mattress, and
Yes.
I thought I'll do exactly the same.
Yes.
So yes, new bed, new mattress, turn up last
Very
week.
comfortable, delightful.
Very comfortable. Didn't stretch to Emma.
No.
Not made of money.
Well, no. Well, neither am I, but we got a very good discount. So yes, so good. So we've covered it. You see, I think broadcasters and writers need to be comfortable, and I'm very sorry for the listener who found it to be. I think the word you used was pants
And shite.
but there we are. I mean, to write and broadcast at our very best and to talk utter nonsense, you need a good night's sleep. So.
Yeah.
Right. Any other bed news?
No, but in similarly related, rest-related news, as I was mentioning to you before we started recording, Bob, I was struck with the COVIDs.
I thought you always walk that way.
No.
Right.
No. Interestingly enough, even though the rest of the family was struck down in their prime, I was pretty much completely asymptomatic.
Well, that's because of the planet that you come from. I mean, let's face it, you are of alien descent, quite clearly. We've mentioned it on many times in the past. So I think you're probably unable to catch the COVID officially. I think you just decided to come out in sympathy for your poor family.
Yes. Well, I was dripping with it according to the tests, but yeah. I mean, I can't complain at not getting ill.
No.
But it was slightly annoying that I had to stay in my house for a week when I felt completely fine. But then again, we're used to that, aren't we, over the last couple of years?
Well, we are used to it. But as I say, now we're sort of COVID's hopefully on its way out. Well, it will never be on its way out completely, I fear. We're looking at other world crises as well. There's always something. And I must admit, I find it really deeply disturbing, and I've been, like most people, very affected by the images coming from Kyiv and the Ukraine. Does mankind learn anything at all ever? It seems not. You coast along and you just think, well, maybe we're getting a bit better. Maybe we're not going to do. Maybe we're not going to. No, maybe we've learned our lessons from history. But in actual fact, it seems that we never do, and sadly, probably never will. But
when you were talking about being quite a broad church in terms of the crime that we talk about, but I don't think war crimes were quite in our remit when we planned what to do on this podcast all those years ago.
No, I don't think it was, but it should be. I mean, by all means, it brings me to my first recommendation this week, actually, which is
don't go outside if you live in Ukraine.
Don't go outside if you live in the Ukraine. Is a new series, a documentary series, a true crime series, which caught my eye this week, and I've watched all 3 episodes. And part of that deals with war crimes. I'll just read you. Ed Power in The Independent writes this. There was a blank space at the heart of Devil's Advocate, Sky's feverish but unsatisfying profile of Giovanni Di Stefano, a controversial criminal lawyer. Di Stefano was not interviewed for the film and remained an elusive figure throughout. With a client list alleged to have included Saddam Hussein and Serbian war criminal Zeljko Račatović, better known as Arkan, Di Stefano's inner thoughts were instead verbalised by an actor drawing on previous interviews and public statements. But it didn't quite work. Well, I have to disagree for once with the excellent Ed Bauer on this. I thought it did work, for me anyway. And it never felt as if the series had got under the skin of its enigmatic subject matter. Well, it got under my skin, I have to say, maybe because I was looking at it from the point of view of an extraordinary tale, and there are several documentaries out there that deal with con people and looks into the minds of how people manage to convince many people to part with their money and on such a large scale. And it's excellent to watch these documentaries if you're a crime writer, especially if you like the sort of psychological mysteries that are so prevalent at the moment and written quite excellently, certainly by people like Louise Doughty and what have you. Getting into the mind of a person who enters into a situation, be it domestic or whatever, and the people take them to be one thing and over a period of time discover that they are something completely different. It's the stock story in psychological thrillers and managed to get written and rewritten again, mostly quite excellently. But this is a man who did it on a grand scale. Ed Powell goes on to say, for all his boastfulness, the man who had looked into the face of true evil cut a rather banal figure. Yet beneath that unremarkable exterior was a lawyer with a ferocious grudge against the establishment. The documentary suggested that this was the result of his background as an Italian immigrant who moved to Northamptonshire with his family at the age of 6 and grew up feeling migrants to the UK were hated. The Devil's Advocate proposed there was more to Di Stefano than the chip on his shoulder. He claimed to have represented notorious slum landlord Nicholas Van Hoogstraten, who was convicted of manslaughter, a verdict later overturned. Yet Van Hoogstraten said that he'd never had any contact with Di Stefano as a lawyer. There were rumours in London legal circles that Di Stefano was not qualified to practice, which he strongly denies. The story was a classic case of truth proving stranger than fiction. Well, I have a much more positive spin on this because I found it quite fascinating. Because apart from war criminals, Saddam Hussein and Arkan and various other people, he also represented people like Shipman, Gary Glitter, an extraordinary array of people who were very much at the edge of the top of crime lists at the time and was proved quite controversial. The thing that comes to, I find particularly interesting, was that he wasn't an advocate at all. He wasn't registered in England as a lawyer. There were extensive police investigations into Italy, and he hadn't qualified as a lawyer over there. He was an extraordinary and is just coming out of jail, I think, in a year's time. Con man. And this conning went back years and years and years. He managed to convince people that he was a top international lawyer and represented some of the most famous criminals in the world. He had no qualifications. People just believed what he told them. And I think it's a fascinating story that he managed to convince so many people throughout the world of his talents and his powers and his pedigree. And along the way, make no mistake, he made an absolute fortune. Well, he got caught in the end. Very tenacious Scotland Yard detective, fraud squad detective, kept on the case after 5 years, many of them in which he was discouraged and was told that it was a waste of time. But he caught his man, and it does make an excellent story. So I can recommend The Devil's Advocate on Sky. You may agree with Ed Power. I'm sure some of you will. But I thought it was a fascinating insight into the mind of a narcissist, a sociopath, and these basic mental states, of course, are of particular interest to crime writers, whose many leading protagonists tend to exhibit the more negative ends of those particular mental conditions. So there we are, The Devil's Advocate, Sky Television. Watch it if you will.
Have you ever done Just a Minute, Bob?
Yes, twice. And I managed twice to actually last a minute.
I do believe you.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, it's up to you. Wake everyone up.
I think you just did about 8 then. So,
did I really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You see, I lose all track of time.
You know what? Saves me a job. If you are a Partners in Crime patron, your free book of the month for March is now in your dashboard. It is The Last Amen. Last Amen.
The thrilling story of Eamon Holmes.
For some reason, my brain read it as Omen with an A.
Amen 3.
It's been one of those days, one of those weeks. By The Last Amen by C.C. Jameson. Shut up, you. When a young woman is found dead on her bed, dressed in an old-fashioned nightgown with her hands clasped in a prayer position, Detective Kate Murphy is called to investigate her murder. Before Kate and her colleagues can find the killer, another woman is found dead in the same position. Other than being Catholic, having blonde hair and living in Boston, the women have very little in common.
And looking like Eamon Holmes.
One thing is clear, the serial killer, Eamon Holmes, has some twisted religious beliefs. What is his motive? Who is he? Eamon Holmes. And most importantly, can Kate stop the murderer before he strikes again? If you're a Partners in Crime patron, that's yours, completely free of charge. It's usually $3.99 on ebook, and if you're not a patron, then go and get it anyway, because it does sound very, very good. And that will be in your dashboard now. If you want to know what all this Patreon stuff is, our patrons help support Partners in Crime. They get early access to every episode. They get to watch it in full HD, as well as an extra bonus episode each week, Partners in Crime, Arsenic and Old Lace. They get that shout out in the show on the week they join, like Carol did earlier, and access to lots more exclusive content like that free book. So do check out the link in the show notes and find out more. One of the things I was going to talk about, Bob, is news mainly. I read in the Herald in Scotland, which of course I read from cover to cover every day, week, month, however often it is it comes out, about James Oswald, the Scottish crime novelist.
Yes.
He admitted he questioned whether he could continue writing about the police after seeing the force's heavy-handed response to the Sarah Everard vigil last year. When the Metropolitan Police Force disrupted a vigil sparked by the kidnap and murder of the 33-year-old in London last year, Oswald was horrified. He said, there's that very famous photo of the red-headed lady with her mask on in a headlock pinned down, and you think, why are they doing that to her? Something's gone very wrong here, and I don't want to be part of the wrong thing. He says, I was just thinking, how can I write stories that big up the police when they behave like this? But fortunately, for everybody, he decided in the end not to give up writing crime fiction, but he does feel that writers need to be more nuanced in how they write about the police service. He says, rather than writing that the police are brilliant, actually portray them as the sometimes flawed, sometimes heroic characters that they are, and try to find out where things go wrong and why. And that can be an interesting story in itself. I completely agree. I mean, shades of grey everywhere, aren't there?
There are shades of grey, and I think he makes a very good point. But at the same time, I think the best crime writers, especially when they're heroes, when protagonists are police officers, tend to be sensitive to that anyway. I mean, part of the best sort of crime character, investigators and detectives tend to have those flaws built in, you know. I mean, to the point of some of them being cliche. I don't know many crime novelists who don't actually have flawed police officers in their books, for better or worse, and I think some of the best of them show the human condition of working under that sort of pressure very well indeed. As a result of the recent horror stories coming out of the Met and a culture of misogyny and sexism and racism, you know, it's appalling. It really is appalling, and needs to be rooted out absolutely. But I think some crime writers are probably dealing with it now, and I think he's quite right to bring it up. I think it's quite right to just say, look, obviously there are parts of the police force that are showing sort of, well, at the very least, very old-fashioned mind thoughts, and the police is changing. I think it is aware of these things. I know police officers who have been very aware of that culture, and in actual fact, within the police force itself, it is being rooted out, and the people who sort of continue to think along those lines are made very aware that their services are no longer needed. How that translates into modern fiction, I don't know, but I have every faith that some of our very best crime writers factor that in to some degree, and if they haven't, they probably are, like Mr. Oswald is now, doing so.
Very good. In other news, the Theakston's Old Peculiar Crime Festival in Harrogate have announced part of their lineup for this summer's festival. The award-winning crime novelist Denise Mina takes over as festival chair. The lineup that's been announced so far, Linda LaPlante, CBE, a friend of Partners in Crime, the Queen of Crime, who wrote the Prime Suspect series, will be appearing, Paula Hawkins, the author behind Girl on the Train, John Connolly, discussing The Furies, the 22nd book in his Charlie Parker series, Kathy Reichs, introducing Cold Bones, the latest instalment in the Temperance Brennan series, Val McDermott, another friend of the show, hosting her New Blood panel, showcasing 4 debut crime writers. Michael Connolly, author of the Harry Bosch series and The Lincoln Lawyer. Tess Gerritsen will be flying in from the US to discuss her remarkable writing career.
She's brilliant. Yeah.
Lucy Foley and C.L. Taylor, two of the most exciting names in British thrillers, discuss their gripping new books. And the former Far Show comedian Charlie Higson will be talking with Channel 4 journalist and broadcaster Steph McGovern about his new crime novel, Whatever Gets You Through the Night.
Fantastic, old Charlie.
Full programme will be announced shortly.
He's Charlie Higson's been doing the what books has he been writing? Is it the James Bond books?
Young Bond, isn't it?
Bond or whatever. A brilliant comic mind and writer. That would be worth it. What a lineup! My goodness me. That's just part of it, you say.
Just part of it. The rest is to be announced.
The rest is to be... Well, that's fantastic.
Makes you wonder what they've got left up their sleeves, doesn't it, really?
Well, God, I don't know how you top that lot. I really don't. But anyway, Harrogate is always great fun. It's a wonderfully well-organised literary festival in an extraordinarily beautiful spot with a provenance of mystery and suspense, being it takes place in the hotel that Agatha Christie ran away to during that period where she disappeared from public life and caused a sensation nationwide.
She did indeed. Remember it well. Sponsorship. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, is what I was trying to say, one of the world's largest ebook retailers. Now listen very carefully, because I know you hear this every week, but it has changed. Because as a listener to Partners in Crime, you still get your massive 90% off of your first ebook purchase from Kobo, but the promo code has changed. You need to use promo code CRIME22 at the checkout, CRIME22. You don't need an e-reader or special device to read those books. You can read on your phone or tablet if you wish, or on anything else, except I wouldn't try it on your dishwasher. Probably won't work. If you've already used that promo code, follow the link in the show notes to get 40% off of selected titles for life using promo code PARTNERS22, PARTNERS22. That code is valid all year and actually applies to more books than the previous Partners code.
And does it apply to audiobooks at all?
It does, I believe.
Oh, very good, because I'm going to mention one now. My audiobook, Kobo audiobook recommendation of the week is called I Have Something to Tell You by Susan Lewis, narrated by Julia Winwood. Here's a quick synopsis. Don't miss the captivating new book from Sunday Times best-selling author Susan Lewis. High-flying lawyer Jessica Wells has it all, a successful career, loving husband Tom, and a family she adores. But one case and one client will put all that at risk. Edward Blake, an ordinary life turned upside down, or a man who quietly watched television while his wife was murdered upstairs. With more questions than answers and a case too knotted to unravel, Jessica suspects he's protecting someone. Then she comes home one day and her husband utters the words no one ever wants to hear. Sit down, I have something to tell you. I do that all the time to Amy. I say, sit down, I have something to tell you. I forgot the cheese. Now, Jessica must fight not only for the man she defends, but for the man she thought she trusted with her life, her husband. Look out for the latest thrilling book, audiobook in this case, from the Sunday Times bestselling author, available now. Well, I hope it is available now because I'm actually recommending it. So, Julia Winwood narrates Susan Lewis's I Have Something to Tell You, this podcast's audiobook recommendation of the week.
Well, my own personal recommendation of the week is one that I spoke about a few weeks ago, but which I've actually finished reading now. It's The Game by Scott Kershaw, which comes out on the 12th of May, the day before my new book, in fact.
Oh, right.
Which is out on the 13th. Brilliant, cracking thriller. Thank you very much to HarperCollins for sending me a copy of that. Across the globe, 5 strangers receive a horrifying message from an unknown number. The person you love most is in danger, he says, his chair creaking atmospherically. To save them, each must play the game, a sinister unknown entity that has a single rule. There can only be one winner. If you lose, your loved one will die. But what is the game, and why have they been chosen? There's only one thing each of them knows for sure. They'll do anything to win. Welcome to the game. You've just started playing.
Oh, very good. He's doing voices himself now.
Yeah.
I told you, he can't resist himself. It's
do
the
all my own
actor in you,
stunts.
Adam Croft.
Do all my own stunts.
Yeah, so it's marvellous. I think that's a great one. Across the globe, 5 people receive a message from an unknown stranger. Well, most strangers are unknown. That
That's
message
the unknown
is,
number, to be
on the
fair.
13th, Adam Croft's new book comes out. Run for the hills!
Thank you very much. So yes, The Game by Scott Kershaw. Highly, highly recommend that. Go and get it
What's
on
your new book
pre-order. I'm going to go to that next week.
Oh,
Yes, I'm going to
everything in
that
its
next week.
place.
Well, yeah, it's available to pre-order from my shop on my website at the moment,
right.
but I don't want to go too far into mentioning that because I'm going to wait until it's up on Kobo and suggest that people get it from there.
Right.
Probably
Okay.
shouldn't I?
So, titles under wraps. Have you had a cover reveal yet?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's all there and up for pre-order.
Oh, is
things.
it?
It's all-
Well, you're terribly well organised about this sort of
Yeah.
thing. And
I'm just trying to keep
normally
our
so-
sponsors happy.
I'm not- exactly. Quite right. Quite right. Thank you, Kobo.
Well, we're going to go and do Partners in Crime, Arsenic and Old Lace, which is our after show. A couple more news stories and bits and bobs to talk about in that.
Yeah, and I've been sort of out and about really. So I haven't been able to watch that much television apart from that documentary I recommended earlier. So I'm not fully up to date with what's going on. I know that there's the 4th series of Killing Eve out. I'd be interested to see what response. In fact, Moriarty for dear, much loved Moriarty has already put out of the social media thing about that. Trigger Point, and my brother was over the other day, and he said he'd been enjoying that very much indeed. That's another one I haven't seen. So there's all sorts of good things happening. My Chris Lang's just about to start filming his new Unforgotten. So that's something to look forward to. So, yeah, I'm going to spend the week catching up on the television side of murders and mysteries and suspensefulnesses, and read a couple of books, which I haven't done for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've been very slack. I've been very busy.
Yeah.
I can't do it all. I can't be expected to do it all, Adam. Don't give me that look.
I'm not giving you any look.
You
I've
are.
been
You're giving me that look.
extraordinarily busy myself.
That strange raised eyebrow between your headphones.
It's just how I look.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
It's about the only hair I've got on my head. I'll keep them moving just to
Yes,
create
well,
some
that's-
sort of
imagine
intrigue.
if, yes, I mean, the only hair on your head is, well, you've got a beard, moustache,
Yeah.
and your eyebrows. And a couple of little nice hairs sticking out of your nose.
And my ears, but you can't see with my headphones.
But there is absolutely sod all on your head,
Yeah.
above your eyebrows.
And in it.
No, there's a considerable amount of hair in your brains.
And on that note, we should probably stop things there, shouldn't we?
Yes. It says one baldy to the next.
Till next week.
Bye.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Daws and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.